Hello and welcome to Mile High Reefers. I'm Scott Anderson, and today we're going to talk about quarantine tanks. Quarantine tanks are a great thing because they allow you to check and make sure your fish is healthy before he goes into your reef tank where a parasite or a disease can devastate your tank. Unfortunately, 90-some% of us don't use quarantine tanks. Why don't we use quarantine tanks? Because you end up having a tank that's difficult to take care of because you don't have any natural filtration to go along with it. You have an extra tank laying around, which, let's face it, if you're like me, you have an extra tank that lays around, it turns out full of stuff. It's just how it works in my world. If I got an extra tank, everything's ready to go except for some rock and artwork. Yeah, it's getting filled up with stuff. So, what's an alternative to a quarantine tank? My thought is a fish-only tank. So, why would this work? Well, in a reef tank, I can't dose copper-based medications because I will kill all of the invertebrates in the tank. But in a fish-only tank, I can dose copper-based medications because I'm not running invertebrates. The downside is I would be running fish in a fish-only tank and be risking all the fish in the fish-only tank to disease every time I put a new fish in. And of course, copper-based medication isn't a cure-all, and copper-based medication isn't always 100% safe for the fish you put in there. But for me, I think that's what I'm going to try. I am not recommending you do this. This is my idea to try to have some sort of way to treat fish and monitor new fish as they come into the aquarium. I personally haven't tested this. I personally don't know anybody who has. I'm sure it's been done. So do your research before you try this on your own. This is my thought on how I'm going to do it. This is my trial. I'll definitely keep everybody up to date. So I'm starting off with a 55-gallon freshwater aquarium, and I will be converting it to a 55-gallon saltwater aquarium. So I'll give you a little brief overview of how the build process goes. I'm not going to go too in-depth because I think everybody's seen how you set up a tank. The big point here is for everybody to see that I'm trying out a little different plan than just a bare bottom quarantine tank. I'm trying a fish-only tank, which will hopefully look nice in my house, but still give me the ability to treat fish with copper-based medications and keep some pretty cool fish like puffers that I can't keep in my reef tank. So we'll give it a shot and take a look at the video. You'll kind of see what I started with and what I end up with. So let me know what you think of the idea, and I'll definitely keep everybody up to date on how everything works. Alright, so here's our old buddy Rankins. And unfortunately, Rankins has ick. He's a little skittish, so I don't know if I can get up close enough and see him, but you can probably see the little white spots on him. I think what we're going to do is set up a 55-gallon tank that I have been keeping for freshwater for about the last 13-14 years. It had some rasboras in it. I sent those to my wife's work to be donated to the fish tank at Sunrise Community Health. And we'll see how all this goes. But my idea is we're going to use a fish-only tank as a quarantine tank instead of just setting up a quarantine tank. I can't justify a whole nother tank just for quarantine purposes, and I can't treat anything that gets sick in this reef tank. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to set up the 55-gallon. We're going to take Rankins out of the 55-gallon, treat him, and then in a month or two he'll come back in here when all the ick is gone. Now, I realize the ick lives in here and it may be an issue still, but for the time being, that's what we're going to try. But it's been 6 months that he's been struggling with ick. He's not showing any real ill effects other than the white spots. He's still the same fish he's always been, but this can't be good for him. So I'll show you the build as it goes. Okay, so here's the 55-gallon tank that we're going to set up as a fish only slash quarantine tank. We'll see how well this works. Right now I'm planning on a hang on the back filter for filtration and potentially a canister filter. So I've taken all the fish out of here. I used to have some Rasboras. I'm probably going to end up reusing the rock in here just because rock's relatively expensive and I have this. But I think I'm going to take all of the rock out, take all the live rock out, all the plants out of there, and then clean everything real good and start setting it up for a fish-only tank. Okay, so here's the 55-gallon all set up. And I'd say it looks really good. So for the base rock, I used an aragonite mix. It's just a big crushed coral. Didn't use a fine sand or anything. This is not intended to be a deep sand bed. This is something that will get vacked just to help keep detritus up. You can see the rock is the big rock is the same rock that was in there. I think it's a very attractive rock, especially that purple color looks really nice in a marine aquarium. The other thing I made sure I did was keep space in back just to make it easy for cleaning and all that. I'm hoping that works pretty good. For a heater, I'm just running an old Jagger heater. This heater is probably 10 years old, but it has not given me any problems. This is a solid case of if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So I'm gonna stick with it, see how well it does, but so far 10 years, not a problem with it. And then I'm running two MaxiJet 1200s, one on each corner. This one's a little difficult to see, but the idea behind it is it keeps good water flow in the tank, and it also keeps the water flow going for the fish. The fish need the water flow. It keeps them exercised. It keeps them healthy. They eat a really fatty diet, and this is kind of how they keep some of that burned off. For lighting, I'm running a JBJ Viper 150 watt metal halide. Not quite enough for this application. As you can see, the right side of the tank is a little dark, and then you got that band from the center support, that shadow band. So not 100% sure what I'm going to do about it. I do have another light, a compact fluorescent downstairs that I may adapt over to it, but for the time being it's going to work more than adequately. So yeah, not too bad. And then I am running a Regent back filter. This Regent back filter has been on here as long as I've owned the tank. This thing is 15 years old. It just uses the pleated cartridges in there, and it just adds another place for nitrifying bacteria to grow. It does have carbon in there. I will end up taking the carbon out before I start dosing with carbon medication. And then I am also running a hang on the back Aqua Sea Remora protein skimmer. Pretty decent little protein skimmer. The only thing I don't like about it is the sound. You can probably hear it running right now. So it's a little noisier than I would prefer to have. But otherwise, it does a great job skimming. I ran this thing for many years on my 29-gallon tank. So all in all, I think this setup is going to work pretty well for me. Everything said and done setting this up, because I already had all the parts on hand, I'm at less than $100 in this thing, going from freshwater to saltwater. But I mean, I had a protein skimmer, I had a back filter, I had a light, I had rock. I purchased aragonite. I purchased 2 new glasses up here because the old ones were broken, and a new top fin glass cleaner. Really wish I would have just held out and bought one of the MagnaFloats. This thing was cheap, it was on sale, but the magnet's not as quite as strong as the MagnaFloat ones, but for the time being it'll work. So we're about we're about a month out before this thing's ready for fish in it. This thing has to complete the whole nitrogen cycle. So to start the nitrogen cycle, I put a couple pieces of krill in there to kick this off. So we still got to see the ammonia, the nitrite, and then the nitrate hit. Once everything's said and done, I'm going to put Rankins in here. I will treat him for ick. Once Rankins doesn't show any signs of ick, I'm seriously considering putting the 2 clowns and the 2 chromies in here, and then running the 90-gallon fallow for months just to allow all the ick that's currently in there to die out. And then that way that tank is clean, it's sterile, and I'm starting fresh. So I haven't 100% decided that's what I'm going to do, but right now that kind of makes sense. I put Rankins in here, I get him to where he's healthy, and then I put the rest of the fish in here, and I get the other tank to where it's healthy, and then everything that goes in the reef tank is parasite and disease free before it makes its way in there, because it is just impossible to treat a reef tank any other way. So I hope you like this video. Rate and subscribe. There are many more videos to come. So thanks for watching Mile High Reefers. We'll see you on the next one.